last year, all of Anderson School District 5 was subject, the special ed departments across District 5 was subject to an audit from South Carolina State Department. So they came in, they looked at our IEPs, they talked to parents, they talked to administrators, they talked to special ed teachers, and basically got an idea of what we do and how we do things. So they liked some things that we were doing, and then they said that these are some things that we need to correct and possibly do different. One of the big things that stuck out to us was how we were providing oral accommodations. So the State Department wants us to move from removing these kids from a general ed class to go to a lab into implementing oral accommodations within the classroom. Their viewpoint and their standpoint is if it's an accommodation that can be provided in a general ed class, then they don't want to remove that kid from a general ed class to be provided those accommodations. Now, obviously, we had, talk back and forth because my biggest concern was if these kids are leaving, then they're going to be embarrassed, or if they're the only ones with headphones in, then they're going to be embarrassed and they're going to not use their accommodations. Well, there was dialogue, but in the end, the State Department said this is how we want things done, so this is kind of how we're going to move forward. So, looking through tons of programs, Curtis kind of led me to this Google Read and Write, which I fell in love with. So it's something that I use for all kids that you guys send to the lab for us now, but like I said, we may be transitioning into doing this in the class. If you want to try some of this stuff, I wanted to kind of show you how it works. So this is a test that I've used for me and for Ms. Worth's class. The Google Read and Write is something you can go to the Chrome store. You can just search Read and Write for Google Chrome. You can add it, and then later on it sends you an email, and you just say, I'm a teacher, I'm going to use it for this, that, and the other, and then we'll add it on. So anytime and any computer you log into will automatically pull that extension up. So, for instance, this Chapter 7 test. I don't know if you have the volume on, but there will be a little purple R and W that pops up in the right corner, right under my cursor. When I pull up a Google Doc, I just click on this cursor, and then it gives me lots of different things that I can do. All right, so the awesome thing about this versus Kurzweil, what we were using before, is Kurzweil read left to right. So if you had text here and a chart here, it would jump from your text into that chart and became really confusing for our kids. It took hours to set up a test, and we don't really have that time to do that. So if I click my cursor at the beginning of here and I press play, it just starts reading wherever I'm at.
Maybe you don't have one.
Try this again.
Chapter 7 test Roaring Twenties in the Great Depression.
Alright, so that may be too slow for some of our kids, it may be too fast for some of our kids. They have the option to go into the settings up here, and this is set at medium, so you can slow it down, you can make it faster. It will read in Spanish, it will read in English, it will do a few other, different languages and whatnot, which is good for some of the kids that we have.
You can change the voice if you don't like the voice. If you don't like her voice, there's several other voices. They're kind of humorous.
Right. So they can pick up and start anywhere within the document that they want. There are some other things that it will do that you may use. You may want your kids to use this for like study habits. If you click over a word like economist, they may not know. Up in the left, right here, is a dictionary, so we'll give them the definition. Beside that, there is, it will come up with pictures. Now, there might not be that many great pictures for economists, but for other words that they may not know, it may show them a picture. Like, especially in math, some of those terms that they may not know in math, it might show them a picture, and then they might be able to realize it. If you're giving them a test, what I have done is I go in and I log in on all of those computers that they're going to take the test on. Because if I log in, it automatically pulls up, and I have the ability in my settings to take the dictionary off and the picture dictionary off and stuff like that. Because if you don't want them being able to search those words while they're taking a test, then you can cut that ability off. But if they have it on their Chromebook and you're giving them notes at home, they may be able to pull something up that they may not know using this program. The other thing that I really like about it is if they're using it, if you give them a document and they're using it to take notes. So like, for instance, if we were reading 1984 in English with Miss Works, if we're going to go and highlight some quotes that different people said, and I'm just going to pretend this was a quote that was said by somebody, this one was said by a different person, so I'm going to make it pink, and this one was said by a different person, I'm going to make it yellow, this one was said by a different person, I'm going to make it teal. So these are quotes that I've pulled out possibly from notes or important pieces of information. The teal ones being kind of the same information, the purple one and the yellow one as well. If you click this, collect highlights, so things that I've highlighted, hit OK. It will generate another document for them with those highlights on there. So at the top of the yellow, it could be, these are things that Winston said, these are things that so-and-so said, these are things that so-and-so said. So they have that broken up and they can use that as a study aid. I know that was extremely quick. We don't have a ton of time. I know you guys want to get back to your planning period, but something that you can add on to your computers. The biggest issue that we had in talking with everybody about doing this in classrooms is test security. So if you're using the same test this semester as next semester and you don't want kids to have access to them, like you don't want to share your test with them, you can take them to a lab and log into a computer, or you can log in on their Chromebooks or something like that so that they don't have that information, if that makes sense.
Here, let me add just a couple things.
Okay.
You know, Garrett showed you read and write for Google within a Google Doc. You say, well, I don't type my test up that way. I use a Google form. It reads Google form. I mean, if you want to pull up Newsela and read an article on Newsela or Newsela Lab, you say it reads that. It's multifunctional. It doesn't just work within one specific format like you saw it here. So, however you use your test, more than likely on a Chromebook, distributing that information to students, read and write for Google will read it. So
even I get sent Word documents, PDFs, all of that stuff, and it will convert. I mean, for a Word document, it's just copy and paste into the document. For a PDF, sometimes I have to scan them and then pull them in, copy and paste that way. But it'll do just about any. I haven't ran into any issues with this.
I've used this for a number of years. Going back to middle school days, we used that a lot in the classroom instead of sending kids out. And it works seamlessly, especially when all kids are already on their device taking the test. It's really no different for that one student, two students to put their earbuds in and use that.
I think using a Google form kind of helps with your test security too, right? So I use Google form for all of my tests and then use the read write. So that way it helps even if you're reading it to everybody in the room, because if I sat and read a test to everyone in the room, well, of course people are at different places on the test, so they're going to get lost. But if they have this on their Chromebook, then they're still working at their own pace. And I find that really helpful.